أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So just finishing off really the sort of end of Khaybur and then moving on to some events, important events that happened just, I guess, between Khaybur and the next major event that was going to happen, which is there was a time during after Khaybur where Muhammad Sallam started to reach out his dawah to much further horizons, and that was a phenomenal story, which was about how Muhammad Sallam reached out to all of the kings and the leaders to other states outside of the Arabian Peninsula. It's very smart the way he had done that, and the timing, considering the fact that he hasn't fully taken control over the Arabian Peninsula, because Makkah is still yet to be conquered, Taif is yet to be conquered, and so there are many of these other regions, the northern part of Arabia. Yet Muhammad Sallam is still thinking 20 steps ahead in terms of how he's going to spread the deen to all of these different regions. And the way he would do this is that he would seed he would seed all of these ideas of Islam into all of these regions to allow people to ponder, to think about the ideas. Something very similar to what we should be doing. It's like when you go in there and you start giving dawah, when you start teaching people about Islam, you don't go in there with an encyclopedia or a full Quran and start going through the whole tafsir or picking up a book of the A to Z of Islam. You start slowly putting ideas in people's minds, and they can be done in so many different ways. They can be done from verbal communication. They can be done mainly from the actions of the way that we behave. I mean, these are the real great seeds that can be planted into the ideas of non-Muslims, as well as the Muslims as well. The unfortunate situation that we have today is that you see it today, is that the Muslims and the way that they behave, whether they're on social media, whether they're out in the streets, and you see them, day to day, we don't portray a very good image. And this is a very counterproductive situation for the success of the Muslims. Inevitably, what are we trying to achieve here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, he's not going to give the success to the Muslims around the world until they change what is within themselves. And we just haven't made that change. That change has to be a collective change. It's got to be enough that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is satisfied by what we have done and what we have achieved. So it's just beautiful the way that Muhammad Sallam carries his dawah 10 steps ahead. He's always ahead of everyone. Now that dawah can be done in so many different ways. Look, he's either sending messages out to people to invite them towards Islam. That causes an inquiry, right? That causes an inquiry of people trying to find out who is he, what does he represent, and for them to go around and start doing their research. He does this via the dawah, he does this via the jihad that he does. And jihad doesn't mean the physical battle that he does. When he goes to these lands, he invites the people, he tries to nurture them towards Islam. And if there's any obstacles in the way, then that jihad and that battle is done. And then in order for him to become successful, you've got to prevent those who are going to try to decline you in your dawah, those who are going to prevent you from giving the dawah. Look, if you want to propagate, advertise, do something about your ideas or your views, whether it's a business, whether it's an idea that you have, in order for you to advocate that idea, you got to ensure that no one prevents you from pushing that idea. That's the first thing. Move the prevention out. And then you can go out and then you can reach out to your audience. And so this is, Muhammad Sallam taught us a very important lesson here, a tactic and a design of how to proceed with the dawah. And inshallah, we'll carry that on over the course of the next few weeks. But just finishing off from a couple of weeks ago, we talked about in the Khaybur that the last couple of stories we talked about how the major event that did occur was the poisoning of Muhammad Sallam. The poisoning of Muhammad Sallam during the time that after he conquered Khaybur, one of the Jewish women, alongside with some of the group of the Jews, had prepared a meal for him, and they offered that meal, but they poisoned that food. That food was a sheep, and she even went to the extent of finding out what Muhammad Sallam liked, what kind of food, and they said that he liked the leg a lot and the shoulder, so she put more of this in. with the intention that he would go and eat this. So when she offered this, she even went to the extent of trying to understand at what point would he not eat it? And she understood from the Islamic perspective that a prophet would never eat from charity. So she made sure that when this was given, she said this was not for charity, this is a gift. Because when somebody offers you a gift, it is an obligation for you to take that gift. Okay, this is a ruling in Islam. So when they gave that, it was incumbent upon the Prophet ﷺ to eat from that. So he did eat from that. And then he spat it out and he confronted her. And she said to him, how did you know that this food was poisoned? He said, how do you think I knew? The bone spoke to me. Now, Muhammad ﷺ has many karamat, many miracles, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed these to happen. This may sound like a great fantasy and like one of those, fantasy movies that occur. This is reality. This is the reality of all the prophets that occurred, even prior to Muhammad ﷺ, that they were given these gifts that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the bone has spoken to Muhammad ﷺ and said, do not eat me because I have been poisoned. But he had a small piece that later on he said to Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha that the pain of that poison continuously harmed me up until my death, to the point it destroyed one of my major veins. So we know that this was the beginning of the end for Muhammad sallallahu. So after that particular event, and Muhammad sallallahu had executed those Jews for the assassination of Muhammad sallallahu, and obviously some of the Sahabi who ate from that food had been killed, the appropriate punishment was applied. The Jews had made an agreement with Muhammad sallallahu, and they said that allow us to stay in this land. You do not know this land. Let us harvest this land. Let us take care of this land. So Muhammad sallallahu said, okay, under the agreement that A, the land does not belong to you. B, whatever you harvest, you will take 50% of that harvest. Now, look how clever he was. He didn't say, you harvest and I'll pay you for doing the job. You know, we go to work. This is important. We go to work and you get paid a day rate, you get paid a salary, you work in a factory, you work in an office, okay? When you are asked to do this, you have been entrusted by your employer to do that job. Therefore, when you are entrusted as a Muslim, you are obligated to fulfill that duty of that work that is required of you. If you are just given that salary and there's no outcome, no output of the work that you do because you're not doing that work, etc., then you have denied that trust, you have broken the agreement, and you're accountable for this to the point that you could be sinful. So Muhammad ﷺ never said, I will give you a salary. What Muhammad ﷺ said is that if you produce good harvest, whatever comes out of it, you take 50%. That would encourage them to do more work and to produce the output. You know why? Because the Jews at the time of Muhammad ﷺ in that region, and because of their relationship with Muhammad ﷺ, because of that hatred towards the Muslims, they were very treacherous people. And they would do anything not to make them successful, even if that means destroying their harvest, but getting money for it. So that was the agreement that was made, that I will pay you 50% of the harvest that you will bring to this table. But also under the condition, as soon as we are done with you and as we please, if we do not want you in this land for whatever reason, and the reason why he put this caveat in was because he knew the treachery of the Jews, that eventually they could not help themselves but to misbehave, to cause trouble, to create fitna amongst the Muslims, and to create an issue. And therefore he put this condition in that we will get rid of you of this land if we desire to. And they agreed. And so many events did occur during that period where they had created this treachery. AbdAllah bin Rawaha, one of the Sahabi radiallahu anhu, was given responsibility of collecting that money. And they went to the extent of trying to bribe him. They went to the extent to bribe him. And he became so angry about the fact they tried to bribe him. He said, this hatred I have for you because you behave this way will not allow me to do injustice against you because of the Allah's hukm. Doesn't matter what I think of you. Doesn't matter what I think of you. I will not do injustice against you because of what Allah has accounted me for. That is another good lesson to learn about life. It's very hard for us when we deal with our friends and our families and our enemies and whoever people around us, for us to be right, to be righteous, and to be fair. Whenever we deal with people, if we want to be good to them, we want to be bad to them, we should always remember the benchmark and the guide for us is what Muhammad ﷺ has taught us. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us, orders us to enjoin in the khair, in the good, forbid the munkar, and to establish justice, regardless of who that person is. So that could be marital relationships. It could be with family members. If you do not get on, always remember and ask yourself the simple question. Never ask yourself the question, well, you haven't done this for me. You haven't done this for me, so why should I do it for you? Ask the question, have I fulfilled my obligation to you that Allah Ta'ala has asked me to do? That Allah Azza wa Jal has asked me to fulfill my rights over you. That is the question that should be asked. If somebody is a rapist, if somebody is a killer, they will continue to do what they do. Does that mean that you will become like them, to become on equal footings, to treat them in the same way? No, you will not break the laws of Allah. Allah will bring justice in his own way, but you are ordered to do this. So this is a beautiful thing about the Sahabi, what Muhammad had taught them, that regardless of how people are, remember the ultimate accountability comes and will be done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to fulfill our obligation. And if people do injustice to you, remember, you don't know what happens in their life. If somebody cheats you out of, let's say, a deal and you lose £1,000 because he cheated you, do you think that person will walk away happy with barakah in his money, you know, living his rest of his life saying that I got one over this guy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give you justice? If that £1,000 went out of your hands because somebody cheated you, do you think Allah will not give you something better? Do you think there will be barakah in that person who took and cheated that money off you? Do you not think that he will lose that money somewhere else, or Allah Ta'ala will multiply the punishment for him in this dunya and the akhirah? We have no idea. So that's why Allah Ta'ala says that you put your trust in me and let me be the ultimate justice person, the person who will implement the justice on this dunya. Let me be the person that will dish out the rewards and the punishment. And we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. So this is a really beautiful lesson in terms of how the Sahabi responded. When Muhammad sallallahu was issuing out the booty and the collection and so forth, one of the Muslims, one of the Sahabi, who was a distant Sahabi, who got killed during the time of Khaybur, a stray arrow hit him. And when the stray arrow hit him, the Muslims responded back and they said, this man, Midam, yeah, he is one of the lucky ones, he will enter paradise. Muhammad sallallahu, when he heard this, he responded back to the Sahabi and he said, no, this man will not enter paradise until he has tasted what is ready and prepared for him in hellfire. Now, before Muhammad said this, his actual response to the Sahabi was, he has passed away, make dua for him. Now, normally what happens is when a Sahabi has passed away, Muhammad makes dua for him. He doesn't normally respond back saying, you make dua for him. So they were a little bit confused. They looked at Muhammad and said, what do you mean? We make dua for him? Like, aren't you going to make dua for him? He said, this man will taste the hellfire before he enters the paradise. They were confused, so they went through his goods and they found out that he stole a cloak from the Jews during the time of the battle, which he did not submit to the treasurer. So when you go through battle, when the army goes in and everything is collected, the order, the hukum is everything, all the cattle, all of the gold, all of the silver, all the booty goes to the treasurer. He holds it for distribution. You are not permitted to ride a horse that belongs to the enemy until it's distributed. You're not allowed to tire it out. You're not allowed to take their clothing. You're not allowed to do anything, because all of this is not yours until it is assigned to you. So this was classified almost as theft. And when they heard this, one Sahabi came running with two sandals, two straps of a sandal, and said to Muhammad sallallahu, I took this. And he said, 2 straps of sandals or 2 straps in hellfire. So The point here was, this is a serious crime that is committed. But it showed the change of mentality of the Muslims, the Sahabi, that when they understood this, they owned up to everything, because the fear of what was going to happen afterwards is what really impacted them. Now, how many times do you and me and all of us, whenever we get an opportunity to swipe a little bit here, swipe a little bit there, you know, when we're at work, add on a couple of extra hours to our timesheet, or, you know, if we're working in the shop, take an extra Mars bar for lunch when we're not allowed to, etc. Amanat that doesn't belong to us, and we take it unclaimed. This is forbidden in Islam. And so Muhammad ﷺ warned the Muslims and said, whatever rizq is yours, you will get this. You cannot fight against your rizq. What is assigned to you is assigned to you. What makes the difference in terms of your rizq being halal or haram is the intention and the way you acquire it. I remember this very famous story that was told to me, that during the time of Abu Hanifa, there was a man who stole 400 dirhams. And he was arrested by the state, and he was going to be punished. And Abu Hanifa approached this man, whether it was Abu Hanifa or was one of his students, but he approached this man, one of the scholars approached him, and he said to him, you're such a silly man. He goes, you stole this money. The man goes, how am I silly? He goes, I've got 400 dirhams now, right? I've got money here. He goes, you're silly, because 400 dirhams, if you still have it, that means that rizq was going to be assigned to you. But you're silly because the way you chose to get that money, you stole, and now you'll pay the price for stealing that money, but that money was going to come to you. So this is the thing that we don't understand when it comes to the concept of rizq, is that if it's assigned to you, don't worry about it. You don't have to break the rules to try to achieve it. Allah Ta'ala will assign this to you, and you will not get 1 penny less or 1 penny more. On the way back, Muhammad ﷺ, just imagine now that the attack on Khaybur created shockwaves across the whole of the Arabian Peninsula over a period of time, when people found out, because Khaybur was such a major city, a major stronghold, that they would never think someone like Muhammad ﷺ, compared to many of the other tribes, like the Ghatafan, that was 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 members, or the alliance of some of these polytheist tribes were much huge, that a small little group of Muslims were able to take Khaybur. So some people, some tribes, they take the opportunity. They find that Muhammad has already been in a battle. They think to themselves, why not? Why don't we go and attack them? So Muhammad found out that one of the tribes, the Banu Faraz tribe, on the way back from Khaybur, that they were planning to attack Muhammad. So Muhammad sent a messenger to them, and he said to them, if you want to battle with us, then meet us as such and such tribe. This scared the wits out of the Banu Faraz tribe, and they ran and they left for a couple of reasons. Number one, nobody wants to plan a fight with you. They want to ambush you while you're weak. So the moment when Muhammad sent a messenger out to approach them and tell them, if you want to fight us, meet us here and we'll fight, they knew that Muhammad was prepared. Number two, they knew that Muhammad was unstoppable. Many people already caught on that he was a prophet. Many believed, even when they were polytheists, they believed that he had the power of God behind him. So they did not want to touch him. They were scared. But some people just wanted to try it. They wanted to take the opportunity. So when they found out, they went. They just disappeared. It was all done and dusted. So another event, so Banu Faraza will come back in a little while, okay? Because Muhammad did not want to leave this situation, because they decide to go back and to regroup. So we'll come back to them in a little while. Another event, a small event that did happen was, remember we talked about how Muhammad he married Hazrat Safiya radiallahu anha. She was the daughter of the leader of one of the Jewish tribes, and Muhammad married her, but he consummated the marriage outside of Khaybur. Now, in the first attempt to consummate the marriage, she was reluctant. So Muhammad did not say anything. On the second stage, when they were much further away from Khaybur, then she consummated the marriage. And he did ask her, why did you not, in the first instance? She said, I feared for your life. It wasn't because I was not willing. I feared for your life because you were too close to Khaybur, and I felt that if we were unprotected, that somebody would come and attack us. Now, on the second event, when he consummated the marriage, when they were camped up, one of the Sahabi by the name of Abu Ayyub, radiallahu anhu, he guarded Muhammad Sallam's tent. He stood there all night. And when Muhammad Sallam came out and he saw Abu Ayyub standing there, he said, Ya Abu Ayyub, why are you standing outside guarding my tent? He said, Ya Rasul, he said, I feared for your life. He said, feared my life from who? He said, from the woman that's with you, Sophia, because I do not know whether she is really committed to you or not. I want you to just ensure if anything happened, any foul play, that I was here ready to protect you. And for this, Muhammad Sallam was so happy because of the way that these Sahabi protected Muhammad Sallam, the way they loved him with that compassion, that Muhammad Sallam made dua for Abu Ayyub. And obviously he was content that Sophia was genuine. But what this shows isn't the fact that now remember one thing, you see Muhammad Sallam, he had a position as in three capacities during the time of his prophethood. One, as we know, which we follow, his prophethood, him as a prophet would receive these revelations that would give us the hukams regarding salah and fasting and marriage, etc., etc. So all of these things to do with ibadat, this is the ruling that Muhammad Sallallahu would receive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he would dish this out to us, he would give this out to us in the capacity of a prophet. Then there was Muhammad Sallallahu as a leader, capacity of a leader, the Khalif, the leader of the Islamic State. This capacity is different because we know that after Muhammad Sallallahu as a leader, that other people become leaders, like Abu Bakr Siddiq became a leader after Muhammad Sallallahu. They could fulfill that position. Umar bin Khattab then became the leader. He can fulfill that position. But as a prophet, could anyone fulfill Muhammad Sallallahu position as a prophet after he passed away? No one can. And the third position was him as a judge. Nobody can take that position. Sorry, people can take that position as a judge, because as a judge, you just you make a ruling between disputes between people, between tribes, between on situations, on distribution of land, etc. So they can fulfill that. So Abu Ayyub, his love for Muhammad Sallallahu was as for a prophet. And because of the fact that they loved him, this was an order by Allah that you must love the Prophet Muhammad. So this is how the people develop this relationship. This is something I think is important. Why I mentioned it is because I think this is something that you and me and the Ummah lacks very much, is this connection with Muhammad. You cannot love a man if you know nothing about him. That's the truth. If you claim that you love Muhammad as a prophet, then you must know many things about him. You must know what he represented. You must know what he lived and died for. You must know what he fought for. You must know what he sacrificed for. So we as Muslims, can we truly say to ourselves that we love Muhammad Sallallahu? And if we love him, that is the one thing that motivates us. Look, think naturally. Each and every one of you love your parents. And when you love your parents, you go over and beyond what you do for other people for your parents. Some of you, I know, you are nursing your parents. You stay up all day and all night looking after your parents. You sacrifice your time and your effort for your parents. Things that you will not do for other people. That's a fact. It's because of this connection you have with your parents, this love that you have with your parents, that you have developed over the course of your life, being with them, developing that relationship and that respect. So I ask you the question again, do you love your prophet? Because if you do not love your prophet, that explains why you do not follow him. That's the logical thing. If you do not follow Muhammad Sallallahu in the khair, in the good that he has taught you, if you do not follow his sunnah, if you do not do the things he wants you to do and abstain away from the things he wants you to abstain away, then what are you doing? How can you claim that you love him? So this is a very serious psychological question. You got to ask yourself the question, this could be the problem, why we do not follow him. why we do not do the good, is because we have that missing link with him, that we don't really love him. And the only way you can do that is by building that relationship. And to build that relationship, one must know about him. One must study him. And the more you read about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the more you read the Quran that teaches us about him and what he had done and what he had implemented, creates this relationship where you revere him as a prophet. You begin to appreciate the sacrifices that he makes for all of us. And that's hence why we do classes like the Seerah, to create that connection. So if you ever ask yourself the question, why can't I get closer to Muhammad ﷺ? Why can't I get close to Allah? Why can't I do my salah? Why am I not motivated to get up to go to the masjid to pray? Why am I not motivated to do charity work? Why am I not motivated to do good things or stay away from the haram? That is because this is one of the reasons, is because you lack that relationship with Muhammad ﷺ. And that's something that we have to build upon. When Muhammad ﷺ was moving away from Khaybur, and after this event, they got to a certain place before they reached Medina where they all rested. Now you have to imagine, they have been fighting for days, for weeks. You're exhausted, and then you're traveling back in the heat. Okay, so they get to a place and they rest for the night. Normally, Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu is always given the responsibility for waking everybody up for salah. He's always given that responsibility because he calls the adhan. One morning, this is important, one morning, Muhammad ﷺ wakes up. Nobody else has woken up. And he wakes up after the Fajr time. So Fajr has now finished and he has woken up. And he walks over to Hazrat Bilal and he says to Bilal, "Ya Bilal, what's happened to you? You did not wake up." Bilal looks at Muhammad ﷺ. He goes, "Ya Rasul, that which captured my soul at night had captured your soul at night. We both did not wake up." So Muhammad ﷺ said, "You have spoken the truth." Now, people say to me, "Oh, Muhammad ﷺ never missed his salah, he never did it." Muhammad ﷺ experienced everything that you and me have experienced. This is one of the things that I love about Muhammad ﷺ. That people think that yes, he is a prophet and he is the Ashmal Bashir, he is promised paradise, he is one of those who will be the first one to enter Jannah. Nobody can enter without him first. But as a man, he made many mistakes like you and me have made. He did not wake up for Fajr. This wasn't a mistake. He forgot. He was not accountable. Remember, if you sleep and you miss your salah, Muhammad ﷺ said, when you sleep, the angels lift the pen from the paper. Nothing is being written. So what did Muhammad ﷺ say to Bilal? He said, "Gather everyone. Let's ride a little bit further." When they rode a little bit further, then they stopped and he said, "Now call the adhan and we will pray together." And then they prayed. So I'm going to explain the concept about what they've done. So when he prayed, Muhammad said, "One who forgets prayer should perform it when he remembers." So one who forgets his salah should pray it as soon as he remembers. And he said, because Allah said in Surah Al-Taha that he said, "Perform the prayer for remembrance of me." Always perform your prayer when you remember me. So a couple of interesting points here. Why did Muhammad ﷺ, when they had missed Fajr, and he woke up and realized when the sun had just basically had come up from the horizon, why did they not pray straight away? Why did they ride further on and then pray? Because the hadith says, never ever pray when the sun comes up. Yeah, because the sun always rises between the horns of the devil. So that time when the sun is rising up on the horizon, you cannot pray, such that you cannot pray while the sun is descending downwards to the horizon. That's why they say between Asr and Maghrib, there's a 15-minute period. Between Asr and Maghrib, that last 15 minutes, you should not pray. Some scholars say it's haram to pray in that last 15-minute period because the sun is coming down. So that is one of the reasons why they moved on. And when the sun was above and set, that's when they prayed. Okay, so this was a very important thing that we realized. Even when Muhammad ﷺ, he missed his salah, and he showed us what we should do if you miss your salah. So at Fajr time, if you miss it and you wake up and you realize it and it's come, wait a little bit and then pray your salah. So this is another important lesson that we had learned, a hukum that came out during the time of Muhammad sallam, when he after leaving Khaybur. When Hazrat Umar became Khalif, remember that what had happened was, during the time of Khaybur and when the Jews were harvesting the land, there were many treachery acts that were being done. Hazrat Umar was the one Khalif, when he became a Khalif, was the one who eradicated the Jews from Khaybur. As a matter of fact, he eradicated them from the whole of the Arabian Peninsula. And the reason why what happened was, Ibn Umar, the son of Hazrat Umar, was at Khaybur one day. He went there because remember AbdAllah bin Rawaha later, during the time Muhammad sallam actually had become a martyr. So obviously the responsibility to collect the money moved from hand to hand from different people, different responsibilities. That responsibility went to different people. Ibn Umar was at Khaybur one day, and whilst he was sleeping, he got attacked by the Jews in Khaybur, and they broke his wrist and they threw him out the window. This news came back to Umar bin Khattab. And Umar bin Khattab, he heard about this treachery of the Jews. And he also was told about a saying of Muhammad sallam towards the end of Muhammad sallam's life, when Umar bin Khattab was not there. He heard from the Sahabi that Muhammad sallam had said, just before he had died, that two religions will not be together in the same time in the Arabian Peninsula. Two religions cannot be and coexist at the same time in the Arabian Peninsula. And for that reason, Hazrat Umar made the decision, once he'd done the research and verified this information, he made the decision to eradicate the Yahuds from this land. Okay, and that's when they were moved from from Khaybur. So we're talking about, after the death of Muhammad sallam, after Umar bin Khattab, Abu Bakr Siddiq became Khalifa, and then Umar became Khalif. So this is a milestone event that occurred. Another event that occurred after the event of Khaybur was the expedition, which I mentioned earlier on, to the Banu Fazara. So this is where we talked about how Banu Fazara had planned to attack Muhammad, some surprise attack. Rasul Pak found out about this. He sent a messenger to them and said, if you want to fight us, then fight us here. And they ran off. But Banu Fazara was still planning to attack Muhammad. This is when everything started to kick off. People politically motivated who felt that Muhammad was a threat politically to their religion, to their social system, to the education system, needed to eradicate Muhammad. So people did not stop to try to eradicate the Muslims from this land. Banu Fazara were planning to attack. And therefore, Hazrat Salama told this story about how Muhammad gave responsibility to Abu Bakr Siddiq to lead a group of Muslims to go and attack Banu Fazara before they attacked the Muslims. So Abu Bakr Siddiq, in charge of a group of Muslims, went to the land and the region and the territory of Banu Fazara. When they got there, they camped at a well. Now, Hazrat Salama was telling the story. He said that when we camped at night, we then made the attack on their village. Now, when we went and charged at that village, all of the men and the women, the children and the cattle ran towards the mountain. As they were running towards the mountain, I feared that they would escape. So what I done is I shot an arrow. Now, when you shoot an arrow, you've probably seen this in the movie, they shoot the arrow. And if the arrow goes over your head and lands in front of you, that means you're in a reach of being shot. So when the people saw the arrow land in front of them, being shot from behind, they stopped. They knew that basically it means stop or I'll shoot. So they all stopped. So Salama said, I then brought back all of these people, okay, back to Abu Bakr Siddiq. Hazrat Salama said, when I brought these people back, he noticed one Arab mother who had a beautiful daughter, an unusually beautiful daughter. So I said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, and Abu Salama was a young man as well. He said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, Hazrat Salama was, not Abu Salama was his father. Salama said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, can you gift me as booty this lady, the beautiful woman? So Abu Bakr Siddiq handed the lady over to him as booty. Salama said that when we went back to Medina, I ran into Muhammad Sallam at the marketplace. And Muhammad Sallam came to me and said, "Oh Salama, will you hand over that girl to me?" Salama said to Muhammad Sallam, "Oh Prophet, I am really attracted to this girl and I have not had any relationship with her." So Muhammad Sallam kept quiet and left. The next day, he came across Salama again, and he said to Salama, "Will you hand over this lady to me?" He said, "Ya Rasul, I'm very attracted to her. I have not had any relationship with her." And that's it. Muhammad Sallam kept quiet and he went off again. Now, obviously, Salama did not want to have a relationship because he's thinking, why is Muhammad Sallam keep asking me? The third day, again, Muhammad Sallam saw Salama at the marketplace and said to him, "Will you hand over this lady to me?" And Salama said to Muhammad Sallam, "I'm attracted to her. I have not had any relationship, but you can have her." And so Muhammad Sallam took this girl from Salama. Now, on the story, people will be thinking, and the Orientalists, when the historians, they said, "Look at that. Your prophet takes all these beautiful women for himself." No. If they carried on with that story, they would have understood, what did Muhammad Sallam do with this lady? Muhammad Sallam knew that in Makkah, many of the Muslims, we talked about this before, if you were a Muslim in Makkah and you had a strong family backing, you would not be arrested. You would be allowed to roam freely because you had protection. But if you were one of those unfortunate Muslims who didn't have a good, strong family background and backing, you would be arrested. So Muhammad Sallam used this woman as a bargaining chip to release some prisoners from Makkah, because he knew that this woman was so beautiful that they would fetch a good price and they could release a huge number of the Muslims. And that's exactly what Muhammad Sallam had done. Just goes to show you the way that Muhammad Sallam thinks, and the way that Muhammad Sallam gives the opportunity to the Sahabi to achieve greater ajr from Allah, more reward from Allah. That, look, Salama, I know this woman is beautiful, and the fact that she is so important for you, that you find her so attractive, means it's a bigger sacrifice for you to give this. But if you can give this to me and sacrifice something that you desire so much, I promise you that the ajr of Allah will be greater. And they will do nothing to achieve that ajr. Something, again, we don't have in our shakhsiyah, our personality. How much are we willing to sacrifice things in this dunya that we hold so dear for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the belief, two things that we need to believe in. Remember, Allah said in the Quran, "Whatever you give to me in my name is a loan. That I am the only person, the only guarantee that can give you back a loan." Even insan could not guarantee their loan. If you give them a loan, they could not guarantee that loan back. You give something in my name, I guarantee you to repay that loan, not just in this dunya, but also in the akhirah. And many of these Muslims, they were giving more in this dunya and the akhirah, but we don't think like that. That's the problem. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised you this in the Quran, and Allah is not a liar, when he promises, if you give something with sincerity, you sacrifice something for me, I take that as a loan, that I owe you something back. If you can endorse that, if you can incorporate that in your daily life affairs, in your habits, inshallah, you will see your life change. And not just your own life change, you will see other people's lives change, because that is one step closer to being that Muslim that Allah Ta'ala wants us to become, in order for him to change our situation globally. The things that you will do today will ensure that Allah will help those Muslims who are in a more misfortunate situation than us, in more difficult situation, by us changing our person, incorporating these little things, changing our personalities, is going to help those Muslims in Palestine, in Kashmir, in Burma, in all these places where they are facing difficulty. It's those things that we will get the ajr from. This is why I always say, when the day of judgment will come, you will be surprised. Your own good deeds that you directly have done, right? Your own direct good deeds are never going to be enough to release you from the pangs of hellfire. What will save you is the deeds that you have done that have indirect impact that you are not aware of. When you give sadaqah to someone, you don't know where it's gone, and some person has benefited from that, and their family have benefited from that, and their children have benefited from that, and they come back and they do good deeds and they make dua for you, and you get all of these rewards coming back to you. When you think about all of these things, or you have multiple revenues coming in or reward. That's how we should be thinking. And once we can incorporate that, we're one step in that same right direction of making that massive big change. Another expedition that occurred was when Hazrat Umar was sent to an area called Turba, which is in the Hawazain territory. So this is very close to Taif. Why? Look, I mentioned earlier on, Khaybur has now been conquered. Muhammad Sallam now needs to begin to spread the message of Islam and start touching different areas in different ways. Now, south part of Makkah, if you go 6 miles further down, you'll come to Taif and the Hawazain area territory. This area, by the way, just to let you know, is a no-go zone for the Muslims. Makkah is a no-go zone, but this is more so, okay? And if you remember in the very early stages of Muhammad being in Makkah, if you remember the time when he got kicked out, not kicked out, but when he had no hope in Makkah, he went to Taif and to try to give dawah there. And what did he receive from the people of Taif? The whole streets were lined up with people who basically pelted him and Hazrat Zaid, yeah, with stones. They pelted them with stones until they kicked him out of Taif. They did not want him back in that area. So this was a very treacherous area that were against the Muslims. So Muhammad sent Hazrat Umar to a tribe called the Turba tribe, which is in the Hawazain territory. So he went there very quietly with 30 riders, because there were a group of people from that region who were planning to attack Muhammad. So as Hazrat Umar went to that region and he got very close to that region, when he went there, he took them by surprise, and when they found out he turned up, they disappeared. Hazrat Umar then returned back to Medina. Whilst he was returning back to Medina, he was asked by the people that were with him that, "Oh, Umar, do you not desire to battle the Khattam tribe, who were the Hawazain?" He said, "I have been ordered by the Prophet that when the time comes, we will only battle the Hawazain in their land for a political reason." And that is something you'll begin to realize at a later stage, because when Muhammad took the Hawazain tribe, many benefits came from that by taking them in their own land. So that is something that we will cover at a later stage. Another expedition occurred. So these are many different expeditions that were now occurring after Khaybur. Another one was when AbdAllah bin Rawaha was sent to a Jewish man by the name of Yusayr bin Rizm. What happened in this particular event was Muhammad found out. Now, again, Khaybur has been dealt with. They've agreed with the Jews that they're going to harvest the land. Abdul bin Rawaha will go back, collect the goods, and return them back to Medina, okay, and make sure that they're behaving themselves. Jews were still continuously planning to attack Muhammad quietly. This man by the name of Yusayr had made an agreement with the Ghatafan, who were again another tribe who were venomously against Muhammad. Ghatafan were the tribe who were in the battle of the trenches. They brought 6,000 warriors against Muhammad. They were the same tribe that when Muhammad went to Khaybur, that they also tried to attack Muhammad, but they didn't arrive at Khaybur to fight because they feared that Muhammad was going to attack their own tribe. So Yusayr once again tried to make another deal with the Ghatafan tribe, and they agreed that they would join up with Yusayr and his men to attack Muhammad. When Muhammad found this out, he sent AbdAllah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu to go and intercept Yusayr. Abdullah bin Rawaha turns up with 30 riders, and he meets up with Yusayr. And he says to Yusayr, the Prophet has sent a message and says he would like you to be in charge of Khaybur, right? Over the Jews. So Yusayr thought to himself, well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Okay, I'll go with it. Abdullah bin Rawaha ordered each one of those 30 riders to ride with one of the Jews. So there were about 30 so Jews as well with Yusayr. So you just imagine they're all going back towards Khaybur. They were roughly about 6 miles outside of Khaybur. Each Muslim is co-riding with a Jew. As Abdullah bin Rawaha is riding with Yusayr, Yusayr decides to change his mind. He thought, you know what? This is not a good deal. And he had a change of heart. The moment he had the change of heart, he tried to go for Abdullah bin Rawaha's sword. Abdullah bin Rawaha knew that he was going to do this. And so he moved his horse very quickly forward so that he would not be able to grab his sword. He grabbed Abdullah bin Rawaha, retaliated, took the sword and attacked Yusayr, striking at his leg, cutting off the bottom part of his leg. Yusayr screamed. He picked up a piece of pine wood very hard. He was on his horse and he rode around and came back and he hit Abdullah bin Rawaha very hard on the head that caused a very serious injury. At that time, the Muslims responded and they killed all the Jews that were with them because obviously we were now in an attack zone. Abdullah bin Rawaha, then eventually they killed Yusayr and Abdullah bin Rawaha went back to Muhammad, told him what had happened. He had a very severe injury and Muhammad he spat on the injury on the head of Abdullah bin Rawaha and he made a dua, and Abdullah bin Rawaha, he swore after that point that injury never got worse, never festered, okay, and he never ever had trouble from that injury again. Because we know that Muhammad continuously throughout the Seerah, he has this permission from Allah that anything from him is barakah, his spit, so his saliva, his hair, the water that runs off his body is barakah. That's why people used to fight for this. Abu Sufyan, when you will hear this story later on, when he comes to make a deal with Muhammad regarding Makkah, that when he saw these people, he saw how they used to fight over the water. When Muhammad used to do wudu, they used to fight over the water that used to come off him. So they used to rub it on their skin or their face, or if his hair used to fall, they used to fight over the hair because it was barakah. There was blessing in Muhammad. So Muhammad had this power, this karamat, this miracle where he could cure people from his saliva, and make dua on them and the injury. And we know that from what happened with Hazrat Ali when his eyes were infected, and also from the other Sahabi in the battle of Uhud, in the battle of the trenches, when his eye came out and his eye was pushed back. Another story was an expedition was when Muhammad sent a Sahabi by the name of Bashir bin Saad with 30 riders to a group called the Banu Murrah. Now, Banu Murrah were in the Fadak territory and they were planning to attack Muhammad. Amazing. Look at all of these attacks, one after the other. We're not talking 1 year after the other. We're talking about 10 days, 15 days, 30 days. Continuously Muhammad is getting news coming back from his scouts. I mean, can you imagine how good his security services getting this information about people continuously trying to attack him? So he sends Bashir bin Saad to go and to counter Banu Murrah in the Fadak territory. Now, Banu Murrah were a Jewish tribe. Now, when Hazrat Bashir arrives at this location, they do a surprise attack on him and they killed all 30 of the Muslims. Hazrat Bashir managed to escape and he managed to take refuge with another Jew in the Fadak territory. That Jew protected him, and then in the next day, Bashir leaves and goes back to Medina. When he goes back to Medina, he tells Muhammad sallam what's happened. Muhammad sallam then dispatches another Sahabi alongside with Osama bin Zayd. So Zayd bin Haritha, the adopted son of Muhammad sallam, his son Osama. So he sends Osama bin Zayd with the leader of this group of people, Ghalib bin Abdullah. Ghalib bin Abdullah is now assigned by Muhammad sallam. You go and you attack these men that killed these Muslims. Osama bin Zayd goes with him. Now listen to how this story goes on. They get there, and in the early morning after Fajr, they go and they attack. So as they're fighting, and one Ansari is with Osama bin Zayd, and he says that there's a man in the rear of them that's fighting very hard. Eventually, when we beat them, we overpower this man. This man is by the name of Mirdas. When we overpower him, the man falls. Osama says, I took my sword to attack him, and he screams out, La ilaha illallah Muhammad. The Mirdas, the kafir on the floor, shouts out the kalma, he takes the shahada. The Ansar steps back. He says, oh, he's taken the shahada. But Osama bin Zayd, he takes his sword and he drives it down and kills him. This has now affected Osama. They come back to Muhammad sallam and they tell Muhammad sallam, this is what's happened. News has got back that Osama bin Zayd did this to this man Mirdas who took the shahada. Muhammad sallam calls Osama and he said to Osama, who will stand for you on the day of judgment? He said, but Ya Rasul, he only said this because he wanted to protect his life. He said, Osama, who will protect you on the day of judgment? He said, Ya Rasul, I only did this because I knew that he was just faking it. Osama, who will protect you on the day of judgment? Osama bin Zayd said, the moment he said this to me 3 times, he said, I wished today was the day that I became Muslim and I was Kafir before, because that's the only point that this sin could be forgiven from me. I felt awful for what I had done. The lesson here is Muhammad is making a very clear point to the Muslims. When the person reads the Shahada, then he automatically endorses rights as a Muslim. You have no right to kill him. We have a problem. We have Muslims in our community and we don't even treat them like Muslims. We have Muslims in our community and we do not even give their rights. This is Muhammad sallam protecting the right of a Jew that took the Shahada for whatever reason. It could have been the reason that he was protecting his life. It doesn't matter. The moment he took the Shahada, he automatically has rights over you as a Muslim. We can't even give our spouses their rights. Our children can't give their parents their rights. We can't give our neighbors their rights. And yet Muhammad sallam is talking about a man that could be that he only said that to save his life. And he said to Osama bin Zayd, who was one of the greatest Sahabi, and said, who will save you from the day of judgment? Now that you took his life, who knows? So this is a very, alhamdulillah, there's so many good lessons that are coming out of this that we need to endorse these lessons. We need to take them and understand how we can incorporate these. This is why Muhammad is very important for us, because he's going through these events. The Sahabi are going through these events for us. They have been making these mistakes for us so that we can learn from this and understand how we need to react and how we need to behave. But how would we know this if we don't read about them? How will we know this if we don't study them? That is the challenge that we as Muslims today are having with Islam. And on that note, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us all and that we have this ability to learn and understand. I encourage you all to read, to study, come to these classes, make these things open up certain things in your mind. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. Sometimes they're deliberate mistakes, but it's not the mistakes that we make. It's not the deliberate mistakes that we make. It's how we respond to them and how we learn from them and try to better ourselves. So don't just stop there and try to learn, try to develop yourself and try to teach others. Jazakallah khair, inshallah, it's Maghrib time. I will leave you guys all to it, inshallah, and I'll see you next week. Jazakallah khair.